I'm just here to do my job.
Hey boos, welcome back to my channel. So today we're just gonna have a little story time. I'm just gonna give you guys like the background info on how I survived nursing school with a newborn baby. So I'm gonna start with me. I was 6 months pregnant and I decided I wanted to go to nursing school. So I applied to nursing school. The program that I was applying for actually was supposed to begin on the day that I was supposed to give birth. So my due date was the day the program was supposed to start. And I remember everybody used to be like, you crazy? Like, you know, what's your plan? Like, what's your plan? And honestly, to be honest, I didn't necessarily have a plan. I just knew I was pregnant. I didn't want to raise her on my CNA salary. I needed to do something else. And so I enrolled in school. And so I just prayed about it. I just stepped out on faith. I really, truly didn't know what I was doing. I took the advice of the nurses that used to come to do clinicals at the hospital I was working at, and I just went for it. I was like, you know, I want to be a nurse. I don't want to be a CNA. I want to give Kylie the best life possible. And so I applied. I got accepted. I gave birth to Kylie June 1st, which was, it was around 4 weeks before her due date. So she was early. She was 5 weeks early. And so I ended up having her. And when I started school, actually, I'm lying. She was 4 weeks. I'm tripping. She was 4 weeks because when I started school, she was exactly 4 weeks old. And so I started school, and at that time, I only had to go 2 days a week because for the LPN program, if you're already a CNA, the first like I believe it's a 2 or 3 weeks of the course is like CNA stuff. So if you were already a CNA, you only had to go 2 days a week. So cool. I was cool there. So my sister kept the baby for me for like the first 2 weeks on the days where I had to go to school. And I actually ended up missing one day that I had to go to school because I didn't have anybody to keep her, but I still thugged it out. I ended up getting zeros, I remember, on my test because in nursing school you have tests all the time. And so we used to have a test like every day, 2 to 3 tests in the beginning of the program. And so I remember I ended up getting like 2 zeros from just missing that one day of school, which was very discouraging, but it was the beginning of the program. I'm like, whatever, cool, I'm gonna make it up. I'm not even tripping. So once after those 2 weeks, Kylie was 6 weeks old and she was able to go to daycare. And so I knew for me, I know a lot of people don't put their kids in daycare and stuff like that, but for me, I didn't have the support for anybody to watch Kylie 5 days a week while I went to school. So I put Kylie in daycare. And because I was in school and my income was under a certain amount, I got chassis. And so I used to pay like $20 a month as a copay to go to school. And as long as you're either going to school for a certain amount of hours a week or you're going to work for a certain amount of hours a week, they cover the daycare. And so since I was in school full-time Monday through Friday, her daycare was fully covered and I paid like $20 a month. And so it was really hard in the beginning with Kylie being so young. I mean, having a newborn baby, like sleep schedule used to be crazy. Like I used to come home, and when she was in daycare, I wouldn't even get her until about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, because I was able to study in between that time. So I would study as much as I could before I picked up Kylie from daycare. And then when she came home, I would just be a parent, take care of a newborn, and then I wouldn't go to sleep until about midnight. So once she lay down, probably like 9 or 10, I would do some more studying and, you know, just kind of chill for a little bit. And then I used to stay up until midnight because even if I put her to bed at 9 or 10, she was going to be right back up for a bottle. So instead of going to sleep and my sleep being broke, I just used to stay awake and use that time to study. So it worked out for me perfectly because even though she was going to wake up again throughout the night, you know, it worked out perfectly for me to stay up. And so I just went to school. I studied hard. I studied when I could in between the time. I didn't work much in the beginning because I actually was still on maternity leave because I had just had a baby. So I had, from my previous job, I had a percentage of my pay that I was getting while I was still on maternity leave. And so eventually things were going good. I'm gonna say we used to have like these tests that we had to pass, and I ended up not passing it was called a block test, and I ended up not passing it. And I know a lot of people don't know that about me. Like, people probably just know like, oh, Chrissy graduated, she did good. But I think it's important for people to know like your struggles and stuff like that too. And I think that people don't realize how hard it was for me to go to school while Kylie was so young. I mean, it might sound easy, like I had a plan like this. So it took me much longer than it originally was supposed to for me to end up passing my program. And I know a lot of people would have given up at that point in time, but I didn't. I went back to school when it was time for me to, and I just kept going. And the reason why I ended up losing like my house and my car when I went back to school was because I had received a grant that paid for my program, which means that all my financial aid came to me in checks. So that's pretty much how I survived in school. So when I didn't receive financial aid, the money was scarce. And so the program was Monday through Friday, and I went to school Monday through Friday, and I would work on the weekends to try to maintain, but it was very hard. And I ended up being behind on certain things. And in that time period, I ended up, like I said before, losing my car and losing my apartment. So when I ended up moving in with my sister, I kept working on the weekends because at this point, like, sis needed a goddamn car. So I kept working on the weekends and stuff and just hustling the best that I can, which in turn made school a lot harder for me because a lot of people were able to go through the program seamlessly and not have to work. I used to have to work. Like, I remember one day I was in class and they was like, Chrissy always sleep, Chrissy always blah, blah, blah. And it was so crazy because the whole time people don't know what you have going on at home. They just see like this happy-go-lucky person and they don't know what you got going on at home. Like, half of the people in the class didn't know that I had a brand new baby when I started. They didn't know that I had lost my car, that I was working every weekend, working every chance that I got. A lot of people didn't know that, but once again, like I said, I stayed humble. I used to have times where I was like sad and depressed, and I just knew that I wasn't giving up. Like, nothing was gonna stop me. And that was also too why I started when she was young. I knew nothing was gonna stop me from doing what I wanted to do for my daughter and us. I wanted this for us, and so I kept going. So I lived with my sister for a little bit, and then eventually I was able to move out. I probably stayed with her for a few months, and I was able to move out after I got my car. I actually ended up paying $1,400 for a car, and I used some of my financial aid that I ended up getting once I got to the next block. So I was only not able to get financial aid for that block that I didn't pass. So once I was able to get financial aid, things were a lot better. Better than they were before. I still was struggling like a lot, being a single parent, doing everything by myself, but I was able to move into my own apartment and get a car. And actually the car that I had, it was crazy. The car I had was a 2003 Mazda, and when I say me and Kylie rode that mug, I drove it to school. I drove it in the winter. It didn't even have any heat in it, and when I say we really had to like thug it out, we really thugged it out. And so for me, I know one of the first things I did after I graduated and started making like good money was I went and grabbed us a car with some heat in it. But I think it's important for people to know that everybody's journey is not the same. Everybody has a different journey. You might see nurses or see people and you don't even know what it took for them to get to where they are now. And so for me, that was one of them. When I ended up moving into my house that I have now, I literally cried on my floor in my room because I had been through so much over the last few months. It finally felt good to have something that you wanted and to know that all your hard work went towards something good. And so that was the start of me creating like the best life that I could for me and Kylie. And I wouldn't regret anything. If I had to go back and do it again, I would do it all over again. The only thing that I would say I would do different is I wouldn't be so sad sometimes, or like so, I didn't know if stuff was gonna get better, or I wouldn't be sad. I would be more confident with doing it because I know that it is gonna get better. If I can sacrifice these months and do what I need to do, it's gonna get better. And anybody that wants to go to nursing school or do it too, you can too, no matter what life throw your way. And we always make jokes all the time in nursing school that everything is gonna go wrong when you're in nursing school. Like, I had so many people who car engine went out, like just all type of random stuff. Like, everything is gonna go wrong when you go to nursing school. And so it's important to just stay focused and know that you can do it.